I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we need a certification of quorum.
Okay.
Mr. Kumar.
Town of Ashland, Vice Chair Hodges. Dr. McGraw.
Here.
Charlotte City County, Mr. Atkins.
Present.
Mr. Patterson. Chesterfield County, Mr. Carroll.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great.
Mr. Holland. Goochland County, Mr. Spoonhauer. Mr. Winfrey. Hanover County, Mr. Davis. Mr. Hudson. Henrico County, Mr. Nelson.
Here.
New Kent County, Mr. Moyer.
Here.
Ms. Pearson. Powhatan County, Mr. McClung.
Here.
Mr. McKinney. City of Richmond, Chair Stoney.
Here.
Virginia House of Delegates, Senator Virginia, Senator Hashmi. And Commonwealth Transportation Board, Mr. Davis. Here. Capital Regional Airport Commission, Mr. Miller.
Present.
Mr. Rutledge. GRTC, Ms. Adams.
Here.
Ms. Torres. RMTA, Ms. Dean.
Here.
DRPD, Mr. Brule. Mr. Trogdon.
Here.
VDOT, Mr. Bridge. Mr. Riblet. Okay. Virginia Port Authority, Mr. Edwards. And that concludes the roll call.
So we do have,
So can you just mark me present, too?
Dale
Sorry.
Totten.
Thank you.
Totten.
There we go. My apologies.
That's all right. We got you.
And do we have a quorum?
Yes.
We have a quorum. We'll move on to part A of the administration side of things today. Now, I did receive a request from the Port of Virginia, Mr. Kumar, their representative to join us remotely due to distance, and I've accepted that request. We do need a motion to confirm my decision to approve the port's request. Mr. Parsons or Mr. Gregory, could you please read the language for that motion?
The motion would be to approve the member's request is in conformance with the CVTA policy for remote participation of members, and the voice of the remotely participating member can be heard by all persons at the primary meeting location. Is there a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Carroll.
Mr. Carroll, you did receive my request for remote participation as well, right?
I was about to get to that, Mr. Carroll, and say, are there any other considerations for remote participation?
Yes, sir. Mr. Carroll requested remote participation as well. Before I move on to Mr. Carroll, though, I want to note that Ms. Nelson's participation is for the reason that her principal residence is located more than 60 miles away from the meeting location. Mr. Carroll's reason for requesting remote participation is due to a temporary or permanent disability or other medical condition that prevents the member's physical attendance, which is in compliance with the policy and with FOIA. So there should be recommend a motion that the decision to approve the member's request was in conformance with the CVTA policy and remote participation of members, and the voice of the remotely participating member can be heard by all persons at the primary meeting location, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion is approved. We'll now move on to any considerations for the action agenda meeting. The executive director's amendment to the agenda, adding the standard project agreement for our consideration. Mr. Parsons, is there anything you want to add to that?
I'm sorry? We don't have any amendments.
No amendments?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, is there any, does anyone have any amendments to the action agenda meeting? Is there a motion to approve the action agenda meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Consideration of the amendments to the minutes. No, approval of the January 26, 2024 CVTA full body action meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Motion has been second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We'll now move on to the open comment period. Mr. Parsons.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is, I would note for members and guests in the room, this is our normal public comment period that is held at every CVTA meeting. This is not the time for the public hearing quite yet on the proposed round 3 projects. So I think at this point, Mr. Chair, we would ask if there are any comments from the audience that do not relate to the public hearing to please come to the podium in the center and share your concerns.
The podium is open.
This is not for the public hearing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Okay, so this is general.
It's for the public comment. Seeing none, we'll move on to the CVTA Chairman's Report, item 5. And bear with me, I have a couple comments for everyone this morning. Folks, I've been reminded that in our pursuit of success as a transportation authority requires a spirit of regionalism that is fundamentally fueled by the priorities and needs of every individual locality involved in the CVTA. And at the CVTA, while we individually contribute funding to the region, the attempt of programming those funds to reach every single locality in the region, in the spirit of regionalism, is, well, I would say, outstanding. That the stats and demographics reflect that we are all growing at various paces, in various places. And understanding this, it's good to remember our funding contributions to the region are meant to reflect positively through projects we choose to fund. The importance of regional project funding should be thoughtfully considered, and in addition to cost benefits, I asked the Finance Committee for the CVTA Round 3 regional project funding to also consider the following: regional benefit, adjustment to localities' funding requests, project readiness, leveraging opportunities, and other locality support. Let me spend a little time on regional benefit. The question is, can we achieve growth balance in Planning District 15? And that does the following: that evenly develops I-64 across localities, appreciates the State Route 288 and Interstate 295 that expands our core here in the region, utilizes US Route 60 and 360 that have historical context as they approach 100 years as constructed roadways, builds on the robust and fast regional multimodal networks that include an expanded BRT routes, support of the regional trails through continued commitments to the Fall Line Trail, and finally makes enhancements to Interstate 95, the major East Coast North-South corridor here in the United States. Now, the Technical Advisory Committee also was asked to consider an additional out year of funding, or essentially more money for the CVTA, in the tune of almost $81 million in additional spending power. $81 million means more projects for Central Virginia and the Richmond Metro. For adjustments to localities' funding requests, we are grappling with inflation. That's obvious. But sometimes not all of our localities' requests can be funded. But we can provide enough money to satisfy some stages of the project, from engineering to construction. Project readiness, being the actual ability for a project to be successful, to go through preliminary engineering, design, build, and maintenance. It is through the programming process that the impact of project readiness, which is important to both the authorities, all the authorities' resources. As we leveraging opportunities that thoughtfully align available matching funds to federal and state opportunities, Maximizing the number of completed projects all over the region is what this cooperation should and will be about. And last but not least, speaking about others' locality support, there is an African proverb: if you want to run fast, run alone. When you need to run far, run with a pact. Collectively, we have a pact here at CVTA. The CVTA has a responsibility under the Code of Virginia to develop a funding plan for regional priorities. We must run as a pact together, folks. And I know we can go far as we work together. In the spirit of regionalism, let's resolve to remain a pact with humility, consideration for each other's regional growth, and shared interests of enhancing the individual's locality's development and success. The efforts that our locality transportation staff were tasked to undertake was not easy. And I want to thank them for their hard work to get us to where we are today. But now with those thoughts in mind, let's move on to the public hearing. Mr. Parsons.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are now on, if you are following along at home, we are on item B of the agenda, which is the public hearing for the CVTA Regional Revenue Draft Funding Scenario. Just a couple housekeeping items for the public hearing. We do have a number of folks that are attending virtually. For everyone's information in the room, I have put a note in there, and I want to reinforce this for those that are following along virtually. If you do wish to make a statement virtually in the public hearing, please note that in the chat, and staff will make sure to recognize you at that time so that you can share your thoughts on the draft funding scenario. Mr. Chair, as you see, we do have a number of folks in the room as well who are here to share their thoughts. We do have on the center podium in the back of the room, we do have a sign-in sheet. So we would ask that if you do wish to speak, when you come forward, please note your name and affiliation so that staff can make sure to include that and your comments in the record. I think the typical format for the public hearing that CVTA has used for previous rounds is for folks to try to keep your time at a manageable level. We don't have a required time limit.
Mr. Parsons, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
As the chairman, I'm going to request that we be brief, or we will implement a policy of the timing by the voting members today promptly. So I'm asking for every guest who takes the podium to be brief. If I believe that you are not being brief, I will ask the members to implement to put a policy in place promptly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think in terms of process, authority members, I think the flexibility is yours. If you feel the need to respond immediately to a comment, then Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, I would encourage you to do so. Otherwise, we'd like to encourage folks to feel free to be prepared to come up to the podium and share your thoughts. With that, Mr. Chair, if there's a motion to open the public hearing, I think we might want to consider that.
Can I have one question? So one table we have is there's nothing in the expected award table that is not recommended. The draft funded scenario, we have there's an expected award column. So there's nothing in there that's not being recommended for funding, right?
Great question. Okay. A little background. So we would in the agenda packet on page 10 was the press release that was shared outlining what was up for review. It does mention the funding slate of about $151.5 million. As the chair mentioned in his opening remarks, the Technical Advisory Committee has considered adding an additional year of funding on top of that, which would increase the available amount. So what we are asking for and what we have asked for in the public review period is for comments on the original slate of projects. That slate of projects has not changed. What is up for consideration by the authority today is where the funding goes and the amounts. And I mean, obviously, which projects get supported and don't. So the request of the public has not changed. It's really what are you supporting? What do you have concerns about? The authority wants to hear those thoughts. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, it's just a little difference in language, recommended versus expected award. I just want to make sure that anything that wasn't populated there with dollar amounts was not being moved forward into the recommended scenario.
So is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
So the motion has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The public hearing is now open. I know this gentleman.
Good morning, I'm John Lugbill, Executive Director of the Sports Backers, and I want to start by thanking you all for support of the Fall Line Trail, truly regional project through 7 jurisdictions, 43 miles long. And it's exciting to see where we are, and we're very pleased to see the funding that's proposed. A couple updates. Fall Line Vision Plan is complete. I have a hard copy here, but we have it online. It really outlines all the stuff beyond what you all are doing to make it a great trail. Places for artwork, playgrounds, other trail amenities, spur connectors. It really lays out a vision for like what's next. And it allows those of us from all sorts of different sectors to be able to start working on those additional projects in addition to the transportation funding. In that vein, Sports Backers has secured funding to build out a website for the Fall Line. We currently have a site on falllineva.org, but we've acquired falllinetrail.org, which is, everyone will figure why that's better. And so that website design and work is being started right away next week. So we've hired CoLab, and that work's going to begin. Brantley Tyndall on our staff has been leading a regional effort to secure funding from the state, from the state VDOT Trails Office. There's a funding that was allocated in prior years for long-distance trails within the Commonwealth. The Fall Line is one of the few long-distance trails in the state that qualifies for the funding that hasn't received funding. So we're working with the legislature to get that done. I also want to say that we believe there's 22 miles of the Fall Line Trail that's about to begin construction or in some stage of design construction in the coming year. We've already seen groundbreakings in Henrico County. We're seeing more action in the city, but there's going to be action up and down the whole corridor. And as that happens, we look to have our website and the coordination of that be more significant. One thing I want to end with, in this report, Tool Design Group, which has been involved in major trail projects all across the country, they stated that the Fall Line Trail, because of its nature of going through rural, suburban, urban, that whole way it's going through the center of our community, has an opportunity to be a major transformational trail. And they put it in the same bucket with the Beltline in Atlanta, the High Line in New York, and the Indianapolis Cultural Trail in Indianapolis. So it has the potential to be something that's just really spectacular. And having a trail spine be the core of our regional bike and pedestrian network for decades to come. So thank you all for having that visionary leadership to support that work.
Thank you, Mr. Ludlow.
Good morning. My name's Rob Whitehead, and we live in the Marion Hill neighborhood on Pondview Lane in Henrico County, about 100 yards from New Osborne Turnpike. Our neighborhood association is very familiar with the description of the project before you to construct improvements along the New Osborne Turnpike and Route 5 corridor in eastern Henrico. We know this project as Concept 2 from the Route 5 corridor study completed at the request of the state in 2011 and 2012. Concept 2 was the final recommendation endorsed at that time by the study team over the concerns and objections of the residents of Marion Hill. And just like then, we feel that the interests of the over 90 homeowners and families residing here are taking a backseat to other considerations. While we recognize that this funding process is in the early stages, I think I can speak for most of my neighbors about why we are concerned about this moving forward at all. Number one, Marion Hill is designated as an existing character protection area in the 2026 Henrico Comprehensive Plan. There are significant historic homes nestled among the quiet neighborhood streets. Number two, the traffic congestion that is increasing along both Route 5 and New Osborne Turnpike as a result of increased development elsewhere, such as Rockets Landing and further out into Varina. Number three, as described in the CVTA Round 3 Candidate Projects and Recommendations Awards document that is publicly available, this project would be devastating to the Marion Hill neighborhood. A 4-lane road with a 100-foot right-of-way and 60-foot high 4-lane bridge over the CSX Railroad would replace the existing 2-lane, 24-foot wide roadbed where the speed limit is currently 35 miles per hour. There are 20 homes along either side of the proposed route that would have to be taken and condemned to accommodate this project. That's crazy. The enhanced connectivity between Williamsburg Avenue and New Osborne Turnpike and Route 5 was also part of the vision in Concept 2. For Marion Hill, this would bring increased traffic across the hill via historic McCool Street, which would be enhanced as a cut-through. That's a terrible idea. By leaving Route 5 as it is and widening New Osborne to 4 lanes, our neighborhood is shouldering all of the impact of increased traffic caused by new development. The Rockets Landing developers successfully argued in 2011 that their village concept is not compatible with a 4-lane road, which could have been supported as Concept 1. Well, the Marion Hill neighborhood is not compatible with a 4-lane road either. This project would lead to bus and truck traffic right through the neighborhood. Again, the quality of life of our neighbors is not being considered. Most importantly, no part of this project anticipates the impact to Main and Dock Streets in the city by routing increased traffic to the base of Libby Hill. If, as Supervisor Nelson has indicated, this project proposal would not involve widening New Osborne to 4 lanes with a 4-lane bridge over CSX, then we would like the language in the proposal to be rewritten to indicate as much. We would like this proposal to receive no funding at this time. We hope to work with the county to come up with a plan that addresses our concerns as taxpaying residents of Marion Hill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
So that we don't waste time to hear repetitive,
Mr. Nelson.
it's not 4 lanes. We are going to adjust the language. As I said yesterday, as I've talked to many Marion Hill residents, it's going to be 2 lanes with a center turn lane. It's no part of Marion Hill will be impacted. Nobody will lose their house. And Tar Euro will speak more to that when we start talking about the projects. So I know the verbiage here says 4 lanes. It's not going to be 4 lanes.
Will the bridge be 4 lanes?
That part of it, I'm not sure, so I'll let Tar speak to it. Yeah.
Mr. Yurd?
Mr. Chair, so as the preliminary application submitted did propose the bridge over Fulton Yard to be 4 lanes, but not striped as 4 lanes, it would be wide enough that if ever in the future there was a need, the bridge would already be there because you don't want to have to rebuild the bridge. But the expectation would be that it would be striped as 2 lanes with a shared use path over the bridge, and it would connect to 2 lanes on the city side at the Hatcher. And also on the Henrico side, it would be 2 lanes, to Mr. Nelson's point, with a center turn lane and a shared use path. So not 4 lanes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gray Montrose, and I happen to live in Montrose, which is a community directly next to the project we've just been discussing. I want to make sure that this body is aware of the Virginia Environmental Justice Act, which says that it is the policy of the Commonwealth to promote environmental justice and ensure that it is carried out throughout the Commonwealth with a focus on environmental justice communities. The community of Fulton should be very familiar to folks in this room who are from Richmond as an environmental justice community that has suffered historic wrongs. The community of Montrose should also be familiar to those from Henrico as one that is a textbook environmental justice community. And I will hold up my phone. You don't need to see what's on it, but you need to see that the screen is red. And what that means is that the cancer risk from air toxic pollution in the community of Montrose, this is a screenshot of the area where we are going to be expecting increased traffic as a result of this project. The air toxic cancer risk is as high as it goes. That is this community, that is Fulton, which was bulldozed in the 1970s as part of urban clearances that had very limited legal jurisdiction to do so, but political reasons to do so. And the community of Montrose that has been suffering for 50 years, ever since there was a landfill dropped in the middle of it. And so looking at a plan to move people more quickly through this community for planned suburbs further out, that sounds like a plan from the 1970s. That sounds like flight, to move people past a community that is burdened, that is suffering, that is full of vacant strip malls, and communities that have borne the brunt of this for 50 years. To move people past that as quickly as possible, out to the nice suburbs, that sounds like a plan from a long time ago and something we want to move past. So I would urge this body, with the assurances of Mr. Nelson and our folks from Henrico, very much understanding the intent, but unfortunately, once something is in writing, it's hard to undo. And right now, the writing calls for 4 lanes and 4-lane bridges, again, to move people very, very quickly past this community that has already suffered so much. So I urge you to consider that and consider the Commonwealth's policy on environmental justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montrose.
Sorry, again, Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Nelson.
So for the sake of my colleagues, clearly you heard me say it's not gonna be 4 lanes, all right? So I don't care how many times you hear 4 lanes, it's not gonna be 4 lanes. It's 2 lanes, it's gonna stay 2 lanes, it's gonna have a turn to lane. This is about a congested area that dumps into the city of Richmond, where Veronians and those who come from the east all bottleneck at a certain place in the city of Richmond. Has been an issue the entire time I've been on the Board of Supervisors. This gives us the opportunity to have 2 different paths to get in and out. That's why, to me, this is important. This is not about urban sprawl or creating more housing. So I know that's the narrative of those who want to be against this. The bridge gives us the opportunity to have a safe route onto Williamsburg Road and gives folk the opportunity to have 2 places to enter the city or exit the city coming east. That's what this is about. So this is not about developers and building houses and all of that. It's not 4 lanes, it's 2 lanes. 2 lanes, 2 lanes. 2 lanes, 2 lanes. We'll change the language.
Mr. Schwartz.
Mayor Stoney, Chair, and members, Supervisor Nelson. I'm Stuart Schwartz. I'm the board member of Partnership for Smarter Growth, one of the founders of Partnership for Smarter Growth. It's now a 22-year-old organization. We support sustainable patterns of growth centered on revitalization of our city and a transit-connected network of mixed-use, inclusive, walkable communities, along with preservation of farms, forests, and historic landscapes. I'm a resident of the city of Richmond. We are concerned about the new Osborne Turnpike project. Total estimated cost is listed as $177 million. I assume the largest share of that, the lion's share of that is the bridge. VDOT has for a long time done 4-lane bridges where 2 lanes are all that are needed. I understand they're thinking long-term, but to us that it does indicate that there would be future expansion, and the bridge would be pointed to as something that would allow for that to 4 lanes. And we have no doubt that there might be proposed expansion farther to the east as well, because of a claim that a bottleneck has now been moved. In 2012, we joined with the Route 5 Corridor Coalition, the Churchill Association, residents of Richmond's East End, residents of Marion Hill and Fulton and the Verina communities, in a massive study by Plan RVA. Huge turnout, huge public engagement, and there was universal opposition to the expansion, not the least of which the impact to the city itself. The impact to the city included one proposal for a massive bridge at the Williamsburg Main Street intersection, some 100 feet in the air, I don't remember the exact number. Option 2 was this one with this very large bridge impacting the communities of Marion Hill and Fulton. Then in 2018, Henrico County connected, as far as we know, that previous study of Plan RVA was absolutely shelved. And then in 2018, Henrico County did a Route 5 corridor study with a special Marion Hill study. The public again came out in force to support the rural character and history of the community and preservation of the corridor as it was designed. Now, I will note and I will cover some of the alternatives that we offered at the time and since. But to be clear, in 2018, that study did not propose expansion of Route 5 or New Osborne Turnpike. There's also a comprehensive planning process going on in Henrico right now to consider all the land use and transportation and history issues of this particular part and particular corridor. You know, in terms of history, the House of Delegates in a prior study said that it is doubtful that a comparable area exists elsewhere in the Commonwealth or indeed in the nation, that its ability to contribute to the economic, aesthetic, and cultural well-being of both individuals and society is enormous. The Route 5 corridor is an important economic asset of the Commonwealth, deserving of effective conservation promotion. It's the nation's second oldest roadway and a designated scenic byway. It travels through 400 years of fertile American history, including the former home of Pocahontas, John Rolfe, John Smith, Civil War battlefields, the tragic history of enslavement, free black history, and 14 Black Medal of Honor winners at the Battle of Newmarket Heights. In terms of the impact on the city, we're talking about inducing more driving. Yes, more development will follow. Developers will point to the increased capacity, funneling more traffic onto Williamsburg Road and onto Main Street. And I do not know how you fit more cars onto Main Street. As noted, an historic African-American community was destroyed once already through urban removal and massive roads and industrialization, but now they would be faced by a future 4-lane highway. First, certainly the bridge will have a huge impact and its scale. And yes, it sounds like, thanks to great mixed-use development at Rockets Landing, which is a great example of the direction we should go, those developers didn't want a 4-lane road next to them, but those new wealthier residents will now be protected, while older established residents, many people of color, lower income, will be impacted by this future 4-lane road. We have repeatedly offered alternatives for better land use in the East End in this historic corridor to protect the tourism value, the economic values, the farming values, the Civil War battlefields, while revitalizing Williamsburg Road, 9 Mile Road, Mechanicsville Turnpike, where there's acres and acres of abandoned land available for quality mixed-use competitive development. And we've also offered roundabouts while retaining the road as 2 lanes, I-95 and 64 access, and other solutions. You know, once a project is on a list like this, even if it's just $4 million right now for a study, it never really ever leaves a list. We have a phrase that we hear, that we use a lot in our office: you're too early until you're too late. We might be told we're too early now, but later we'll be told we are too late. The other piece of this is the fact that immediate residents did not know about this. Now, there was a February 8th press release, a little social media, 4 or 5 press hits, that was it. People didn't know about the process prior to this. And typically on something as controversial as this, we recommend that there be local hearings about major projects that are proposed by a jurisdiction to be provided to you all, because lots of people do not follow these important regional bodies. So therefore, we are recommending that this be literally pulled from the block, not funded at this time, that there be further public involvement reflecting the past involvement in 2012 and 2018 for discussion about the most sustainable alternative for this corridor for the reasons we enumerated above, and because of the impacts not just to the immediate community in the Route 5 corridor, but to the impacts to the city of Richmond from this growth in traffic that this would fuel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz.
Good morning. My name is Susan Wagner. I've lived in Verina for over 20 years. Prior to that, I lived on Libby Terrace for 15. I have opposed this since the very beginning. None of you before me would want this going up in your back or front yard. It's not good for the city. It's not good for the county. It's not good for the residents. I can't speak as eloquently as those before me, but I hope you take to heart what has been said and realize that this is not the answer.
Thank you. Mr. Parsons?
Mr. Chair, we have one remote attendee that wishes to share comments, and I'm going to move Ms. Rivera over. Ms. Rivera, if you can hear us, please turn your camera on when you're able to rejoin so that the authority can interact with you.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Aileen Rivera, and I'm a longtime resident of Verina. I'm here this morning because I'm really concerned that the CVTA in their website proposed one thing, and what we're hearing from our supervisor is something else. So I need to speak to what's on the website, and I know that we will be able to communicate better on what's proposed by Supervisor Nelson. We do have I ask that you vote no on the Route 5 New Osborne Turnpike Improvement Project that the CVTA has on the website, described on the website. Traffic is already an issue on Route 5 into the city, and same thing for Williamsburg Road. We all cut through New Osborne Turnpike to get to Hatcher and get to Williamsburg Road when the lines are too long at Route 5. Adding 4-lane highway. And again, I'm just speaking about what's on the website. Adding 4-lane highway through New Osborne Turnpike into the mix is negligent and irresponsible to the people in the community. We need a real thorough traffic study to Route 5 and the area before anything is proposed. Supervisor Nelson is correct. We know he's trying his best to come up with a solution, but density, as we keep getting dense, is not helping. And we're gonna be building more roads for more density, and it's gonna continue to be a problem. Part of the solution is being thoughtful of development coming into the community. We cannot afford the density. We're running out of roads. All the highways still will bottleneck. Traffic needs to be carefully studied, and the community needs to be involved in the process. I don't know one person in the area that was notified by the CVTA of the public comment period or the public hearing. And please don't say it was on social media. It shows how removed your organization is from the East End communities. Verina is on average a working class community. We don't have time to be scrolling for news. I request that whenever any project like this is proposed to hold the meetings in the community that is affected. This is too much taxpayer money, and more importantly, too many safety issues to be taken so lightly. The community had already responded no a few years ago to a survey the county did online. That has not changed. Supervisor Nelson had backed the community on rejecting that idea. I recommend that rather than investing the money on designs right now, please allocate this money to a real traffic study. A traffic study that would go from Shockoe Bottom through Route 5 into 295. And a traffic study that would go from East Main Street through Williamsburg Road to 295. That's where we can really use the money. First things first, we need a traffic study to keep, before we keep hearing even any other proposal in the future. We keep saying about the possibility of the future development. We can't do that without traffic studies. So please vote no on the CVTA plan. I do have a question, if it's possible. How often does the panel does Plan RVA take proposals? And can we come back with a better proposal? And that includes what Supervisor Nelson talked about, but also adding to what the community also would like to see. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Mr. Parsons, are there any other remote participants?
No, sir, no other requests.
And Mr. Parsons, I'm gonna close the public hearing then. We're gonna move on to today's only action item, and that is the CVTA Regional Project Cycle, Project List, and Regional Revenue Draft Funding Scenarios. Mr. Parsons.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I am going to provide some background on the actions that have taken place over the last few weeks. This project scenario, the funding scenario, is a result of roughly 6 months of work by the technical committee, the authority, and the finance committee in tandem. We are on our, I think Ms. Rivera had a question about this. We are on our third round of funding right now. Would be the third round of regional funding, which is one of our areas of one of our abilities as an authority. This funding cycle happens every 2 years. So is a competitive application process where member jurisdictions submit applications for regionally significant projects. Those projects are scored and ranked and developed in conjunction. Staff works with the technical committee primarily to bring those projects to a point where they're able to be considered by the public and the authority. So the technical committee received from staff back in January, the end of January, a list of projects that were scored and ranked according to the adopted eligibility criteria that the authority has. That criteria is on the website. Those projects were discussed and were accepted as an indication that the process was followed. The projects were then were then considered by the Finance Committee at its next meeting following the TAC. The Finance Committee made a recommendation for the TAC to reconsider and put some more thought into the projects that were in front of them. The considerations that the Finance Committee recommended were adding an additional year of programming funds. So that will be out through fiscal year 31. That would provide an additional amount of funding above and beyond the $151 million that was put out for public review, including the second request was to consider including the use of reserves that staff had previously set aside for a bond reserve. At this point, the CVTA has not taken the action to enter into issuance of debt. So that reserve set aside by staff was a little premature. So that funding, about $20 million, was also identified as being available for projects to be considered in this round. The other recommendation from the Finance Committee was, in addition to the cost benefit being used as a criteria for project selection, which is the primary evaluation tool in the adopted framework, that the TAC should also consider regional benefit, adjustment of previous funding requests, project readiness, the opportunity to use CVTA regional funding as a leveraging tool for other grant programs such as Smart Scale, which is a VDOT administered program across the Commonwealth. And then consideration of the regional outlook and the support and collaboration from the peers, the jurisdictional peers around the table, so other localities support. The TAC took this advice to heart and met again to use this guidance as an additional tool in its discussion. And as a result of that meeting, TAC is recommending and has recommended adding an additional year of funding in FY31, which would provide about $60.2 million, and then absorption of that debt reserve of about $20.2 million back into the total available package. So for this round 3, that would bring the revised amount of funding availability up to about $232 million for consideration in this round. That information was distributed to the TAC, the Finance Committee, and the Authority after the TAC took action to make that recommendation. And that is, that revised list of projects and subsequent funding amounts is before you today for your consideration. I will note, relating back to the public hearing, it does not change the projects that are up for consideration. Those are all the projects that were eligible according to the process. So what has changed with the Finance Committee and TAC consideration is the funding and the distribution of those funds. Mr. Chair, if it's, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if there is any comment from any technical committee members or Finance Committee members to add any additional detail or importance to this, I would be happy to turn the floor over to them.
Any questions or comments from the members?
I have an additional comment, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation today.
Mr. Nelson, you are free to monopolize the conversation as much as you like.
So I've been asking Mr. Ewer to help construct some different language here. First of all, I want to talk to you guys who are voting, and I know we have a couple of citizens here. 3 out of the 4, I don't know where Mr. Swartz resides, but I know 3 of the 4 live in Verona. Hear their concerns, well, 4 to 5 live in Verona. When we first talked about, I was elected January 1, 2012. You know, when I look back on it, I had no idea who Plan RVA was. And all I know was there was an organized push to not 4-lane Route 5. And I still don't think we need a 4-lane Route 5. After 12 years though, it's hard to ignore the countless citizens who travel Route 5 into the city, are uncomfortable with going down New Osborne, down through that wooded area, under that CSX track that is unsafe, and turn out on Williamsburg Road. I think that we need I think we need improvement there. And the idea of taking a bridge over the CRS track, to me, is about safety. It's also about breaking bottlenecks. so that person can feel comfortable coming into our district. That's really what it's about. Nothing about this is, and I continue to say it because I know that there's organized, organized efforts. You don't give us enough time so that we can't send out the email blast to get folk to write y'all emails and we tell you what to write, etc. I understand you didn't have enough time to do that this time. Somebody in the community ran across this, got the word out, and persons still have been speaking. Unfortunately, I can look at the description and see where it freaked people out because it does say a four-lane New Osborne. I missed that. Soon as I saw four-lane, Todd and I got together and we began to talk about how we can do this without four-lane and New Osborne. And it's simple. So it'll be 2 lanes with turn lanes where they are appropriate on New Osborne. So I'll read you what we have as it relates to some proposed language. I don't know how we put it into here, but me saying no to us studying and doing a design, because this is all this is doing, $4 million. It's not funding the project. So this is not going to happen overnight. We're simply looking at how to design this, and when funding is available, it comes back, et cetera. Till I jump in where I'm off, all right? The project will seek funding to conduct an updated traffic study for the Route 5 New Osborne Turnpike corridor and undertake an NEPA environmental study to include a consideration of phasing, cost estimates, community and environmental impacts and alternatives. An updated study in support of an improved 2-lane roadway. This process will include public involvement, multiple points throughout the process. So any other verbiage in here that calls for 4 lanes will be changed to 2 lanes. And this is really all about New Osborne, bridge over CSX, intersection adjustments at Williamsburg Road and Hatcher and New Osborne and Route 5. The interesting thing that I realize is just from your everyday Verona citizens who've heard about this because I posted something on social media, no, I will have to go back and tell folk, I had the opportunity, sitting on this board, after being on this board for a decade, that there was an opportunity for us to create an alternative path into the city and into Verona that did not include 4-lane highway, and I voted against it. I can't do that. I just, after being on this board for this long, and I've heard so many people, the concerns that I heard yesterday were not about 4-lane anything. You know what they were about? Please don't put another godforsaken roundabout anywhere in our community. That's really what it was about. Other than organized efforts by persons that come and speak to this, nobody else that I talked to said anything about this other than roundabouts. And so, whatever we need to do to make the adjustment, then can we do that today? And I don't want to remove this project. Make the adjustment to the language so we can move forward with the study and the design.
Mr. Nelson, I think there's a way to remove this from the block. We can edit the language, amend the language, and then vote on it separately.
Today or another meeting?
Today.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to briefly address a comment and a question from Ms. Rivera. She had asked at the end of her comments, will Plan RBA receive comments specifically about this project, but it seemed also more corporately as a whole. And I just want to say, as chair of Plan RBA, Plan RBA has a strong history and verifiable history of receiving public comments on any matters that affect the region. It is our policy and culture to do that. And I make note that many of the executive committee members who serve this body also serve on Plan RBA who are here today. And so not as it specifically relates to this project, but she had more of a global question, as I heard, about receiving comments, whether it's this project or anything else that affects the region. Plan RBA has had a strong history of being a depository for public comment, and we not only are responsive to that, but we make sure it gets to any entity that needs to receive that public comment. So I just wanted to address that before we move on with any other business. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Mr.
Parsons?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just a little bit more background on the materials that are before you. Thank you again to the members of the public that spoke this morning. In addition to the speakers today, we had this was emailed to everyone last night, but we also have hard copies in the lobby. We had 146 comments submitted electronically. And staff did our best to kind of distribute those comments into general categories. I will say, because I read every single one, that they're not the best distribution, but we wanted to provide some type of a tool so that you could see, these comments are mostly about the fall line, or these comments are mostly about rural character. So that's a tool that you have in front of you. In addition, we also want to recognize the outreach that went into the public engagement effort for the public hearing. So there's another smaller packet which shows the coverage, the press mentions that picked up the story, the social media coverage. There were a couple group emails outside of the CVTA. We also did, which this dates back now a couple years, to some actions that Plan RBA initiated, I believe, to be as broad as possible in our distribution of public information. So in addition to the Times-Dispatch, the press release about the funding scenario was published in the New Kent Charles City Chronicle, the Goochland Gazette, Powhatan Today, the Richmond Free Press, and the Henrico Citizen, in addition to the RTD. So that's the background in terms of the outreach for this project list. The other thing I wanted to point everyone to is on page 25 in your agenda packet is a staff report which accompanies this. It basically summarizes what I have already discussed regarding the committee review, the recommendations that came to you today, and the requested action. As I shared, the funding amounts have changed slightly for the projects that are under consideration. Those are in front of you, and we do welcome any discussion in regards to that. It does not add any new projects to the list for consideration. As I said earlier, only the projects that were applied for by the members and met the eligibility criteria are under consideration today. So with that, happy to take any questions or support the discussion.
Are there any further questions from the members before we entertain a motion? Seeing no questions, is there a motion to approve the project list and regional draft funding scenario?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the candidate projects recommended awards minus the Route 5 New Osborne Turnpike improvements.
So there's a motion. There's a second. Mr. Gregory, real quick before I entertain the second.
Mr. Chairman, is it Mr. Nelson's intent to remove that project from the list of recommended approved projects and consider that separately?
Yes, sorry, colleagues. We're removing this with the current language, and then my motion is to accept the list minus this project in its current form. And then I'm gonna make a motion
And when you say this project, you're referring to the Route 5, New
Route
Osborne
5, New
Turnpike
Osborne
improvements.
Turnpike improvements, and immediately, well, I don't know, because Todd is doing talking to Mr. Swartz, and I don't know if I'm gonna have a motion. I'm gonna need a motion at some point, Todd, to make a motion.
Okay, got it. Well, we do have a motion on the floor from Mr. Nelson,
Yeah, that would be a
right,
second.
to remove the Route 5 project from the project list, but to approve the project list minus that project, which has been seconded by Mr. Moyer. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Carroll.
Thank you, sir. First, I want to commend staff, the TAC, all of the regional partners, for all of the hard work that went into reviewing this project list and the negotiations, and quite frankly, each jurisdiction's ability to look at the overall project list and quite frankly, work together to be able to find the right funding mechanism for each project. And I know there was a lot of give and take from both small jurisdictions and larger jurisdictions. And so I want to commend both the staff and the TAC and all of the regional partners for the hard work that they put together to make this happen. I think this is a tremendous list that has what will, again, in the future, transform transportation in the Central Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. There has been a motion. It has been seconded. Mr. Kumar, roll call.
Town of Ashland, Dr. McGraw.
Aye.
Charles County, Mr. Atkins.
Aye.
Chesterfield County, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Hanover County, Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Henrico County, Mr. Nelson.
Aye.
New Kent County, Mr. Moyer.
Aye.
Powhatan County, Mr. McClung.
Aye.
City of Richmond, Chair Stoney.
Aye.
And Commonwealth Transportation Board, Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Ms. Fosco, does the motion carry?
Mr. Chair, the motion carries.
The motion does carry. Mr.
All right,
Nelson?
so you're waiting on me?
Yes, sir.
All right, question for Mr. Parsons, and or Mr. Gregory. I am going to read a motion, but do I need to mention the dollar amounts that were? Okay. And so what is important, the estimate and the request dollar amounts? Say both of them?
I think the important thing is the last column, the expected award.
All right. And what I'll do is I'll then pass this to you.
Yes,
And
sir.
you will, okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're doing this on the fly.
You got it.
So I make a motion that we propose funding, this, well, okay. Funding to conduct an updated traffic study in support of an updated, all right, let me start over again. Funding to conduct an updated study in support of an updated, traffic pattern for an improved two-lane, improved roadway where bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, and undertake an NEPA study to include consideration of phasing estimates, I don't know what this A word is. Alternatives. It's shorthand, I'm reading it. Alternatives, community and environmental alternatives. The study will include an analysis of proposed intersection improvements at Williamsburg Road and Hatcher and New Osborne, Turnpike and Route 5. And a bridge over CXX with width and details to come. The study will include multiple opportunities for public involvement and input with a value at $4 million.
Mr. Parsons, Mr. Gregory, do you all have that motion?
We did. It's recorded.
I'll second the motion.
The motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kumar?
Town of Ashland, Dr. McGraw.
Aye.
Charles City County, Mr. Atkins.
Aye.
Chesterfield County, Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Hanover County, Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Henrico County, Mr. Nelson.
Aye.
New Kent County, Mr. Moyer.
Aye.
Powhatan County, Mr. McClung.
Aye.
City of Richmond, Chair Stoney.
Aye.
And Commonwealth Transportation Board, Mr. Davis.
Aye. Ms. Fusco, does the motion carry?
Mr. Chair, the motion does carry.
The motion carries. We'll now move on to committee reports. We have the first up is the finance report, Mr. Carroll.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna actually take that from Mr. Carroll.
Mr. Parsons.